On Valentine's Day, my wife said, "You're the only one who didn't know. I've been betting on when you'd lose your job." Minutes passed. I pulled out something that made her cry in panic. I'm not usually the type to spill my personal life out in the open, but something happened that I need to get it off my chest. I don't have anyone to really talk to about this. Not fully, anyway. And after reading other people's stories here over the years, I guess this is where I belong for now. For context, I'm a 46-year-old guy named Howard. I've been married for 19 years to a woman named Callie. We live just outside Pittsburgh, in a pretty standard house in Moon Township. Nothing fancy but decent. We have one daughter, Brenna. She just turned 14. My whole life has been work, family, and trying to keep the damn wheels on. And for the most part, I thought I was doing okay. Tired, overworked, sure. Marriage wasn't exciting like it used to be, but I thought we had a quiet understanding, a rhythm, comfort. But I didn't realize how far off I really was. Let me take you back to this past Valentine's Day. It started like most days. I left work a little early, wasn't feeling well, stomach in knots, probably from stress. I picked up some tulips, Callie's favorite, and a bottle of wine she likes. I also made a reservation at a place we hadn't been to in years, an Italian spot downtown called De Luca's. It's small, intimate, and the kind of place we used to go back when we were just dating. I had this idea in my head that maybe we could use a night like that. A break from the routine. Maybe reconnect a little. I even put on that old gray blazer she used to love. When I walked in the house, it was quiet. Almost too quiet. Brenna was sleeping over at her friend's house, so it was just the two of us. I found Callie sitting at the dining table, scrolling on her phone, glass of wine already in hand. "Hey," I said, trying to sound upbeat. "Happy Valentine's." She didn't even look up. "Hey." I placed the flowers on the table. "Your favorite." She glanced at them like they were a pair of old shoes. "Thanks." Already, my stomach dropped a bit. I thought maybe she was in a mood or just had a bad day. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine." I tried to sit down, hoping things would warm up once we started talking. "I made us a reservation. Remember De Luca's?" She gave me a weird look. "Why?" That caught me off guard. "It's Valentine's Day?" She snorted. "You still care about that kind of stuff?" I stared at her. "Don't you?" Callie leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine like she was on a reality show. Then she said the words that changed everything. "You're the only one who didn't know. I've been betting on when you'd lose your job." I blinked. "What?" She took another sip, calm as ever. "Yeah, me, Marcy, Max, even Taylor from your company. We had a little pool going. I picked February 15th. Looks like I might win." At first, I laughed. I thought it was a dark joke, but a joke nonetheless. But she didn't laugh. "You're serious?" I asked, my voice cracking just a little. She shrugged. "What can I say?" It was entertaining. I stared at her, trying to find a hint of the woman I married in those eyes. But all I saw was something cold. Empty. Detached. "I've been losing sleep for months," I said. "Working every damn day, trying to keep things afloat. You knew that. And instead of supporting me, you made a game out of it?" Callie leaned forward. "You think I haven't been drowning in this marriage? Watching you come home every day like a zombie? You barely talk. You're always tired. It's like living with a ghost. Then why not talk to me? Why not tell me you're unhappy instead of this?" She gave me a half smile. "Because you wouldn't have listened. And honestly, I didn't care enough to try anymore." I don't know how to describe what I felt right then. It wasn't just hurt. It was betrayal wrapped in humiliation and dipped in confusion. My heart was racing, but my mind was oddly calm. I stood up, walked out of the room without another word. She didn't stop me, just kept sipping her wine. In the back corner of my home office, I kept a drawer locked. Inside was a folder I never planned to use unless I had to. I came back to the dining room, tossed it onto the table in front of her. "What's that?" she asked, her voice suddenly less CCKY. "Read it." She flipped it open, and within seconds, I saw her whole body change. Shoulders tensed. Eyes darted. Lips parted, but no words came out. Inside that folder was 3 months of surveillance. Emails, photos, text threads, bank statements, hotel receipts. She was having an affair with Brian, Marcy's husband. They'd been at it for almost a year. Little rendezvous when she said she was working late. Weekend trips under the guise of salon conferences. I let the silence hang in the air. "You bastard," she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. "I'm the bastard? You had me followed?" "I had suspicions," I said quietly. "Turns out, I was right." Callie stood up, her face pale. "This doesn't mean anything. You're just trying to twist it." "Already filed for divorce," I interrupted. "Papers are on the way. And yes, I will be going for full custody." "You can't do that. I've documented everything. Your affair. The way you've mocked and emotionally tormented me. Even this little betting pool of yours. I've got names, too." Her voice broke. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand exactly," I said. "You don't get to tear someone down and walk away clean." And then, for the first time, she cried. Not performative sobs. Real tears. Real panic. She was shaking. "Please, Howard," she said. "Don't do this. I'll lose everything." "You already did," I said. You just didn't know it yet. I left her there, crying at the table, and slept in the spare room that night. I couldn't even look at her anymore. The next few days were chaos. She tried to deny everything, then tried to justify it. I didn't engage. I went about my business, called my lawyer, started getting things in order. Then, wouldn't you know it, on February 15th, I got laid off. Just like she predicted. I should have been devastated, but instead, I laughed. It felt like the final nail in the coffin of a life I no longer wanted. I walked into that HR office with my head held high, because I knew one thing. I wasn't walking out a broken man. I was walking out free. I'll keep going if people want an update. There's more, a lot more. Her reaction to the court summons. What happened when Brenna started asking questions. Even what came out at mediation that shocked even me. But I'll stop here for now. Thanks for reading. And if you've ever been in a situation where you felt small, unseen, or betrayed, please know this. You're not alone. And sometimes, the end is just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, the tension in the house was unbearable. Callie and I barely spoke. When we did, it was clipped, cold, and only about necessary things. Logistics, Brenna's school schedule, bills. I moved most of my stuff into the guest room. It was like living with a stranger who had a loaded gun in her purse. She tried to pretend things weren't unraveling, like she could still somehow claw back control. But I'd seen behind the curtain. I knew who she really was now. One night, I walked into the kitchen and she was standing by the sink, wine glass in hand, phone face down next to her. I can't believe you're actually going through with it, she said quietly. I didn't respond. I mean, you're not even trying to fix anything. I gave a dry laugh. Fix what? You were cheating on me, Callie. You and my friend were making jokes about me losing my job. What exactly is there to fix? She turned to face me. Her expression was complicated. Anger, sadness, maybe even a hint of shame. I made a mistake. You made several, I said. She took a step toward me. Do you really think you've been perfect? You've been half present in this marriage for years. I felt like a damn roommate to you. I was lonely, Howard. And so your solution was to sleep with someone else? I asked. To mock me behind my back with your friends? I didn't want it to go that far. It just happened. I stared at her. You don't just accidentally cheat on your spouse, Callie. She wiped a tear, frustrated. You don't even see me anymore. No, I said. I saw you. I just didn't recognize what I was looking at. She didn't reply. She just walked past me, silent, and went upstairs. That was the last actual conversation we had for a while. A few days later, Brenna came home from school quieter than usual. She dropped her backpack and hovered in the kitchen while I was chopping vegetables for dinner. Dad, she asked. Yeah. Is Mom mad at you? I stopped chopping. What makes you ask that? She's been really quiet. And she keeps crying when she thinks I'm not looking. I swallowed hard and turned to face her. Sometimes grown-ups go through things that are hard to explain. But it's not your fault, okay? And I'm still here. She nodded slowly, but I could see her eyes were wet. Are you getting a divorce? I didn't want to lie. Not to her. We are, I said softly. But I promise, it's going to be okay. We're still your parents. We both love you. She didn't say anything, just hugged me tight. I held her like that for a long time, wondering how the hell I was going to help her through this when I was barely holding myself together. A week after that, the court papers were officially served. Callie lost her mind. I was in the garage fixing a shelf when she stormed in, waving the envelope like it was a grenade. You filed for full custody? She shouted. Yes. You think you're going to win? She demanded. Do you have any idea what you're doing? I know exactly what I'm doing, I said calmly. I'm protecting Brenna. She looked at me like I had slapped her. I'm her mother, Howard. And you've been more focused on your affair and your little games than your own kid. Her voice cracked. You can't take her from me. I'm not trying to take her. I'm trying to give her stability. Something you've clearly forgotten how to provide. That night, she left and didn't come home until past midnight. I didn't ask where she was. I didn't care. In the days that followed, I started to dig deeper into things I'd overlooked for far too long. I found an old burner phone hidden in a shoebox in her closet. I only found it because I was gathering evidence from my lawyer. The texts on it were disgusting. Cruel. She and Brian had been mocking me for months. One string of messages still haunts me. Brian. So did he cry yet when he didn't get the promotion? Callie. Not yet. But I swear I can see the panic building. I'll bet he's got an ulcer by March. Brian. LMAO. You're so evil. I love it. Callie. He deserves it. He's just pathetic now. I took screenshots of everything. Uploaded them into a shared folder for the custody battle. I didn't want to be vengeful. That's not who I am. But I also wasn't going to roll over and let her keep manipulating everything. For once, I was fighting back. I met with my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Simone I found through a referral. She read through the evidence, looked me square in the eye, and said, Howard, if everything you're telling me checks out, we're going to fight this head on. I nodded, trying not to look as relieved as I felt. Don't underestimate her, she added. People like Callie don't go down easy. I already knew that. Later that week, I found something else, an email draft on her laptop she must have forgotten to delete. It was to Brian. It read, "If Howard finds out everything, I'll lose the house. I'll lose Brenna. I can't let that happen. We need to figure out what to do." So it wasn't guilt she was feeling. It was fear. It was all about what she stood to lose. I still haven't told Brenna everything. I don't know how much she should know. She's a smart kid, and I can already tell she senses more than I'm saying. But I refuse to drag her into the middle of this. I want to preserve whatever innocence she has left. Callie, meanwhile, has started spinning her own story. I've heard from a few mutual friends that she's claiming I was emotionally abusive, that I ignored her needs, that I abandoned the marriage. Funny how that narrative only started after she got caught. I'm not perfect. God knows I've made mistakes. I got so wrapped up in work, in trying to keep things stable, that I didn't see what was slipping through the cracks at home. But I never betrayed her, never lied to her, never mocked her pain. There's still a long road ahead. Custody hearings, property division, mediation. But I've got my head on straight now. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm standing on solid ground. 2 days before our first scheduled mediation session, I got a call from Marcy. That's right, Marcy, Brian's wife, one of Callie's closest friends. I hadn't spoken to her since before everything blew up. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Howard," she said, voice low and a little shaky. "Yeah, it's Marcy. I think we need to talk." I stepped outside onto the back porch and shut the door behind me. "About what?" "I just found out everything," she said. Brian finally admitted it. He and Callie, Jesus. I knew something was off. I just didn't know how bad it was. I stayed quiet. She took a breath. "Look, I know this is awkward, but I need to ask, do you have proof? I don't want to lose my mind unless I'm sure." "I do," I said flatly. "Photos, messages, receipts. I'm using them in the divorce. Can I see them?" I hesitated. "Please. I'm not trying to start drama. I need the truth. For myself." We agreed to meet the next day, in public, a quiet coffee shop in Robinson Township. I brought a printout of some of the cleaner messages, not the worst ones, but enough. She read through them slowly, her lips trembling. Halfway through, she just closed the folder and stared at her cup. "I gave him 20 years, she said. 20 F-king years. And this is how he repays me." I didn't say anything. I believed everything he told me. That I was being paranoid. That I was hormonal. That Callie was just venting about your marriage, not. She stopped herself. "God, I feel like an idiot." "You're not an idiot, Marcy." She let out a bitter laugh. "You know the worst part? I liked Callie. I defended her. Even when other people said she was cold or fake. I used to tell them they just didn't understand her." I looked at her. "Yeah, I know the feeling." We sat in silence for a while. Two people who had been living in the same false reality, comparing notes after the house had already burned down. Before we parted, she said something I won't forget. "You're not the only one who's going to war now, Howard. Let them know that." The next mediation meeting was tense. We met in one of those beige office buildings off the parkway. Neutral territory. Lawyers on either side. I came with Simone. Callie came with a guy named Brennan, who looked like he'd been through 3 divorces himself. She didn't make eye contact when I walked in. Just sat there, flipping through a stack of papers like she was reviewing her grocery list. Simone opened the discussion calmly. "We're here to discuss custody, property division, and temporary spousal arrangements. We'd like to begin with custody." Brennan leaned forward. "My client is requesting shared custody. Week on, week off schedule." Simone looked at me. I gave a small nod. She cleared her throat. "We're requesting primary custody, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Lake. We've submitted evidence regarding emotional instability and the extramarital affair, which may be relevant under Pennsylvania custody statutes." Callie's head snapped up. "You've got to be kidding me," she said. "Supervised visitation? What the hell, Howard?" I didn't respond. Brennan tried to reel her in. "Callie, don't." "No," she said. "He thinks he's going to punish me by keeping my daughter away? Brennan needs me." Simone stayed cool. "Mrs. Lake, our concern isn't about punishment. It's about ensuring a stable, supportive environment. We've submitted documentation of your affair, including communications where you and the other party mocked Mr. Lake's employment situation and mental health. Those weren't meant to be taken seriously," Callie said quickly. Brennan put a hand on her arm. "Let me speak." She pulled away. "She's twisting everything," Callie snapped. "He didn't care about this family for years. All he ever did was work or sulk or bury himself in the garage." I finally spoke. "I worked because I was trying to hold everything together. I was exhausted, yeah, but I never stepped out on you. I never humiliated you. I never put our kid at risk." Her eyes flashed. "You don't get to act like some noble victim. You shut down a long time ago. I was alone in that marriage. And instead of talking to me, you started sleeping with your best friend's husband and placing bets on when I'd hit rock bottom." Silence fell over the room. Even Brennan looked rattled. Callie stood up, shaking. "This is character assassination." "No," Simone said gently. "It's the truth." That mediation ended early. Callie stormed out before we got to anything about the house or finances. Brennan muttered something about rescheduling when cooler heads prevail. As soon as the door closed behind them, I let out a long, shaky breath. Simone leaned over, whispered, "She's unraveling. That's good for you." I nodded slowly, but I didn't feel good. I felt tired. Just so tired. A week later, Marcy dropped a beam shell. She showed up at my doorstep with a USB drive. "I found Brian's backup files," she said. "He's not the brightest. Left everything on a shared Google Drive he forgot was synced to our home PC." "What's on it?" "Everything. Messages, emails, voice memos. One of them is from your wife. You need to hear it." I plugged it into my laptop and played the file. Callie's voice, recorded on what sounded like a phone call, laughing and casual. "If I push him just a little more, I think he'll break. He's like one big walking blood clot. I swear I can see the stress killing him. We might win the bet this week." Then Brian's voice. "Should we start planning our divorce party yet?" "Callie, God, yes. Once he's out of the house and I get my half, I'm going to Aruba. With you or without you." I sat there for a long time after that, just absorbing it. There's betrayal. And then there's cold-blooded cruelty. I sent the audio to Simone that night. Her reply? "We'll file a motion first thing in the morning." It didn't take long for the audio clip to make an impact. Simone filed the motion to include the audio recording as part of our formal custody case. Callie's lawyer tried to contest it, claiming it was private conversation and lacked context. But it wasn't a wiretap. Marcy found it on a shared device that Brian had synced willingly. It was fair game. And the judge agreed. I didn't hear from Callie for 3 days after that. On the 4th day, I was at Brenna's school, sitting in a tiny conference room with the vice principal and her guidance counselor. Apparently, Brenna had broken down crying in homeroom after a teacher mentioned a family values assignment. She got very upset. The counselor, Ms. Danvers, told me gently. Wouldn't talk about it. Said she just wanted to go home. I rubbed my hands over my face. "We've been going through a separation. It's not been easy." Ms. Danvers nodded. "That makes sense. But I think it's more than that. She's carrying a lot of emotional weight right now. More than she knows how to process. Has she mentioned anything about blame? Or being caught in the middle?" My heart sank. "She hasn't said those words," I said, "but I've seen it in how quiet she's gotten. How she doesn't ask questions even when she wants answers. She needs support, Howard," she said. "Professional support. I'd strongly recommend counseling. Not just for her, maybe for you too." I nodded. "Already working on it." That night, I sat Brenna down on the couch. She was curled up with her knees to her chest, eyes red from earlier. "I heard about school," I said softly. "Want to talk about it?" She just shook her head. I sat beside her. "You can say anything to me, even if it's hard. I'm here." She looked up. "I don't want you and Mom to hate each other." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I don't hate your mom. I'm angry with her. I'm hurt, but I don't hate her." "Then why are you fighting?" "Because some things happened that weren't okay. Things that made it unsafe for us to live together. And now we're figuring out the best way to move forward." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Did she cheat on you?" I froze. "Why do you ask that?" "Because I heard her on the phone one night. She thought I was asleep, but I wasn't." "What did you hear?" She said she was tired of pretending, that she wanted to be with someone who actually wanted her." Then she laughed and said something about how he still hasn't figured it out. I closed my eyes. "Brenna, listen to me. What your mom and I are going through has nothing to do with you. This is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong." "I know," she whispered, though I could tell part of her didn't believe it yet. "We're going to figure this out," I told her. "And I'm going to make sure you're okay, no matter what happens between me and her." She nodded and leaned against me. We sat like that until she fell asleep. A few days later, I got a call from Simone. "We received notice that Mrs. Lake is requesting an emergency custody modification," she said. "What? What?" "She's claiming the environment in your home is emotionally manipulative. That Brenna is being coached." I almost dropped my phone. "She's the one who's been emotionally abusive," I snapped. "I know," Simone said. "This is a desperation move. She's trying to flip the narrative before the hearing." It got worse. That evening, Callie showed up unannounced at the house. No call, no warning. Just stood outside ringing the doorbell like she hadn't blown our life to pieces. I opened the door halfway, blocking the entrance. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I want to see my daughter," she said, pushing past me before I could stop her. "She's upstairs," I said, "but she's doing her homework. You should have called first. I'm her mother, Howard. I don't need permission to see her." I followed her into the living room. "You kind of do when we're in the middle of a custody case." She whirled around. "You're turning her against me. I haven't said one negative thing about you to her. Not one. She's piecing things together on her own. She's a child," she hissed. "She doesn't understand the full story." "Then tell her your version," I said, folding my arms. "Tell her about the affair. About the bet. About how you laughed at the idea of me losing my job." She turned white. "You wouldn't," she said. "I won't. Because I care more about her than I care about hurting you." But don't think for a second I'll let you poison her just to protect your pride. At that moment, Brenna came downstairs. She saw us both, stiff and silent in the middle of the room. Are you fighting again? She asked, her voice small. Callie turned on the tears like a faucet. No, sweetie, she said, pulling her into a hug. Mommy just misses you so much. Brenna didn't hug her back. Later that night, I got a message from Marcy. Brian moved out. Took half the furniture. Guess he finally figured out I wasn't bluffing. Then she sent another message. I've decided to sue Callie for alienation of affection. Just wanted to give you a heads up in case her lawyer tries to rope you into anything. I didn't reply right away. Just sat there in my dark kitchen, staring at the screen, wondering how many more hits this mess would bring. As of now, the next custody hearing is scheduled for the end of the month. Simone's working on compiling everything. Documents, emails, testimony, even Brenna's school reports. But Callie's digging in her heels. She's hiring another lawyer, apparently. More aggressive. Someone out of Philly. Word is, Brian's footing the bill. Probably out of guilt. Or fear. This thing isn't over. Not by a long shot. But every day, I feel just a little more steady on my feet. A little more clear about what I'm fighting for. Not revenge. Not pride. Just peace. For me. And for my daughter. Court day arrived like a storm I'd been tracking for months. It was early April, gray skies hanging low over the courthouse in Allegheny County. I wore a navy suit I hadn't worn since my last promotion. Funny how clothes can carry energy. This one felt like armor. Simone met me at the courthouse steps. Calm. Focused. We've got everything lined up, she said. But the real wild card is your daughter's statement. You sure she's ready? I nodded slowly. She told me last night she wanted to speak. Said she's tired of pretending. Inside the courtroom, Callie sat at the plaintiff's table with her new lawyer, a slick guy named Mather, all designer frames and smug energy. She looked composed, hairstyled perfectly, dressed like she was testifying in front of a lifestyle magazine, not a custody judge. Brenna sat quietly beside me. She looked smaller than usual in the oversized pew, clutching a composition notebook in her lap. The hearing opened with testimony from Simone. She presented everything: the audio, the screenshots, the bank statements, the burner phone evidence, even the school reports that showed a clear pattern in Brenna's emotional distress aligning with her mother's behavior and presence. Then Mather tried his part. He spun a tale. Callie had been neglected, isolated, emotionally dismissed. She hadn't cheated, she'd connected with someone else because of the emotional vacuum I supposedly created. She wasn't cruel, she was misunderstood. But the judge, a stern woman named Judge Collins, wasn't buying it. Mrs. Lake, she said, did you or did you not participate in a group bet on when your husband would lose his job? Callie hesitated, then shrugged. It was a joke. Who was laughing? The judge asked coldly. Silence. Then Simone called Brenna to speak. My heart nearly cracked just watching her walk up to the little seat in the middle of the room. But her voice was clear. The judge asked simple, open questions. Did she feel safe at home? Did she feel heard? Had anyone asked her to choose sides? Then she opened her notebook. I wrote something, Brenna said. The judge gave her a nod. Go ahead. She unfolded the pages and read. My dad is calm. He listens. He never yells. He always lets me ask questions, even the scary ones. When I have nightmares, he just sits next to my bed until I fall asleep again. My mom used to be fun, but she started lying a lot. She said bad things about dad to other people and didn't think I heard. But I did. She said he was stupid. She said he was boring. She told someone he deserved to fail. I don't want to live with someone who talks about people that way. I love my mom, but I feel weird and sad around her now. I just want to feel safe. I feel safe with dad. There wasn't a dry eye in that room. Not even mine. Even Callie looked shaken, her lips tight as she blinked rapidly. Judge Collins thanked Brenna gently, then recessed the court for an hour to review everything. Simone leaned over. I think we've got it. We reconvened after lunch. The judge returned and delivered her decision in a quiet but firm tone. Primary custody to me. Supervised visitation for Callie, every other weekend, in a neutral location, until further review after 6 months. Callie to attend individual therapy before any request for custody modification is considered. Marital home awarded to me, due to the stability of environment for the minor. Callie looked like someone had just kicked her in the chest. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. But she stared straight ahead, white-knuckling the edge of the table. Afterward, as the courtroom emptied, she caught up to me in the hallway. Howard, she said, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. I never thought it would end like this. I turned to her, calm. You made your choices, Callie. You bet against me. Mocked me. Lied to me. But the worst thing you did was take our daughter for granted. She swallowed. I didn't mean to. Yeah, I said. You did. Then I walked away, not in anger, but with a peace I hadn't felt in years. In the months that followed, life slowly rebuilt itself. The house felt lighter without the constant tension. Brenna started smiling again. She joined an after-school art program, something she'd been too nervous to do while everything was going on. I took a consulting contract at a mid-sized logistics firm outside Harrisburg. The pay wasn't as high as my old job, but the hours were better, and I had time to cook, to hike, to be present. Callie still sees Brenna during scheduled visits. Some go well, some don't. But now there are boundaries. And Brenna knows she has a safe space to come back to. As for Brian, Marcy served him with divorce papers and sued him for emotional damages tied to alienation of affection. She won, settled out of court, moved to Charleston to be near her sister, and opened her own salon. She and I keep in touch occasionally. Not in a romantic way, just two survivors checking in. Callie tried to get sympathy online, of course. A Facebook post about being betrayed by the courts and how she fought for her family. But word got around. People knew. Her own lies had finally become too heavy to carry. Last I heard, she was living in a condo near MT Washington, working part-time, telling people she was rebuilding. Maybe she is. I hope she is. But that's not my concern anymore. I've got my peace. I've got my daughter. And I've got a quiet, steady life. It's not revenge in the Hollywood sense. No explosions, no public humiliation. Just the kind of revenge that comes from surviving something designed to break you and coming out stronger. The kind where the person who tried to ruin you has to live with the truth. They lost the best thing they had, and they did it to themselves.